Hey everyone, it's the Outlaw John Rocha here doing an introduction here for this interview you're about to watch with the Emmy-nominated producer of Jury Duty, Nicholas Hatton. We have a fun time talking about the show, talking about how this all went down, talking about James Marsden's involvement and how they took care of Ronald Gladden so he never figured out what was happening on the show, and even talk about whether there's going to be a second season or not. A fun conversation for sure with Nicholas Hatton, but I want to let you know about 40 seconds into the interview, his internet goes out, so instead of having him be on camera with a frozen picture of his face, I put up one of his publicity stills there, and that lasts to about the 16-minute mark, and just under the 16-minute mark, he comes back, and now we're both there on camera reacting to everything that's going on in the conversations that we're having there all the way to the end of the video. So just put up with that for just about 40 seconds to the under 16-minute mark of having his picture up there next to mine. I'm still moving around doing all my things, but just wanted to let you know ahead of time so you don't tune out on the interview and stuff, because it's great stuff for sure from Nicholas Hatton. All right, well, sit back, relax, enjoy this conversation, and let me know what you thought about everything he had to say down in the comments section below. Hit a like on the video, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Now, on to the interview, and I'll talk to you soon. Hey everyone, it's the Outlaw John Rocha here. Really excited to be welcoming executive producer of this great show, Jury Duty, Nicholas Hatton. Nicholas, how are you? How are things? How's it going? How are you dealing with the Emmy love? All this love for this show that came out of nowhere to cap the pop culture zeitgeist. How do you feel about it, man?
Well, hey, thanks for having me, John. I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching the show and allowing us to talk about it. It feels very, very surreal. It feels insane. No, it's been an absolute dream. And honestly, I can't believe the way that it's taken off and the way that folks have responded to this show. And because it didn't start this way, it wasn't one of these things where we had 200 billboards and there was a wave of publicity before the thing came out. Right. Truthfully, the week that it came out, there wasn't a lot of anticipation. It didn't feel like there's a lot of buzz because there's just so much stuff comes out every single week, right? That's the kind of the problem we have, even tracking all the shows that are on TV. And when it first came out, it didn't feel like there was this tremendous groundswell of anticipation. But the beautiful thing about this experience has been people, when they come in contact with the show, it seems like they just have a compulsive need to tell people about the show. And that has been this very old-fashioned sort of word of mouth that was driven in part by a very 21st century technology in TikTok. And I mean, God bless TikTok. Yes. We're probably here almost entirely because of that algorithm.
Yeah, from what I understand, 300 million views plus 300 plus million views of a Jury Duty there on TikTok. So yeah, sometimes you can use technology for good. And right now, I don't know what's going on with the technology. Is this something, do we need to pull back out or go back in, or shall we just roll with this?
We should definitely not allow AI to take creative jobs, because I think if we go back, I can go on my little soapbox for a second here, which is we have cave paintings back in, from Spain from 4,500 years ago, which is human beings telling stories to other human beings and like carrying on this tradition. And the idea of like in 5 years time, someone taking a few prompts, plugging them into an app, and then you have a 90-minute feature with not real people as the actors and no one actually crafting these stories. That to me, that's just a bit scary in terms of it's breaking the most human of traditions, which is us getting around a campfire and telling each other jokes and sad stories. And that's me pontificating about that for a bit. But like AI very scary when it comes to storytelling.
This is the time to do it. This is the time to do it. Certainly topical for everything that's going on. I do got to ask you, you started out working on such serious fare like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Les Miserables, and Anna Karenina, but then you moved into doing some production coordinator work for At World's End, Brothers Grimsby, and the Borat sequel, which of course led to Who is America. So do you think you found your footing as a more comedic guy, or was the serious stuff still something you want to kind of swing back to?
I love drama. I love serious stuff, and I always probably at some point, come back to those things. But right now, the last almost decade of my life has been in the comedy space, and it's because I love very, very talented people, and it's a pleasure and an honor to work with them. And when I first started working with Sacha Baron Cohen, I recognized that this was a comedy genius, and the stuff that he was doing was unlike stuff anyone else was, and he was pushing boundaries and really challenging audiences. He was challenging the people he worked with to try and achieve this kind of wild stuff. And I love a challenge. And then from there, once you get a taste of that, once you get a taste of the insane, then you kind of, A, you want a little bit more of it, and then B, people come to know you as a guy who can do very complicated, odd stuff. So naturally, going from Who is America, we worked together again on Borat 2, and then doing Borat 2, the guys who had the idea for Jury Duty, they essentially said, Nick, can you make it? We have an idea. We don't know how to do it. Can you do it? And that's here I am now.
Yeah, I got to say, when this first popped up on my screeners, I have my girlfriend is a massive Jury Duty fan. Like, she wants to serve on Jury Duty.
Right.
So which is an anomaly. I know it's an anomaly. So when we saw this pop up, I was like, let's give it a shot. I haven't heard much about it. Let's try the first episode. And there was just something really unique and interesting about the show. And then we tore through it in 2 days, 4 episodes a day. And it was just one of these rarities that have come along nowadays when everything is so cynical and tribalistic and angry and all this stuff's going on social media. Here comes a really sweet show with a guy at the center of it, Ronald Gladden, who you could have easily punched down, could have easily made him the butt of the joke. But the great twist about the show is that he isn't, and that everybody falls in love with him, so that when the reveal happens, there is something really powerful in that reveal that kind of makes you believe in the human spirit again. And I don't know if that was the intention of your show or if that came along as you guys were creating it, but somehow it has become this thing that people have really fallen in love with because of the message, I think, by the end.
John, you've actually articulated this better than I frankly ever could, which makes me less good as a producer.
Don't say that much.
No, but all those things encapsulate our sort of mandate, the thing that we carried with us as we wanted to make the show, which was, can we take... Yes, people have in this sort of space I call hybrid, which is you use real people in scripted environments.
Right.
And we're not the first ones to do that, but we are the first people to create such a lengthy experience and to essentially build an entire world around someone. And more importantly, we really, truly wanted this to be a hero's journey. That was the North Star for us. And we wanted to take a real person and make them truly feel that by the end of this experience, that they are thankful for the experience, they can look back on it fondly, and they can be happy that they took part in this crazy thing. Especially once the truth is revealed to them, because that's the most important thing. It would be so devastating to us who made the show, and more importantly, I think, off-putting, frankly, to an audience if, come that reveal, if Ronald had turned around in anger and said, "You sons of whatever," and gotten really, really upset, how would you as a viewer, who up to this point has all these great vibes and feelings watching this show, like you're going along with it, you'd feel, I think, maybe like you're part of the wrongdoing here. You are somewhat implicated in this. Right. And so the fact that we did manage to deliver this thing that we hoped for, which was this incredible experience that he would remember for the rest of his life and love, was just a tremendous relief. And that was the big gamble. That was the big risk. That you can't predict exactly how someone's going to feel about something. Humans are unbelievably nuanced and complicated, and we surprise ourselves every single day. And so that was the tension. The reveal was easily the most tense day that I've ever filmed anything. Because you hope for the best.
Exactly. As a seasoned watcher of these kinds of shows, and certainly I've loved Sacha Baron Cohen's stuff, the modern prank shows and movies that have come around, I found myself in the last 2 episodes being super nervous about how Ronald was going to react once the reveal happened. And also because, not just because of Ronald, but because I fell in love with the characters that all of these wonderful actors that Susie Ferris found in the casting process, who really brought about these wonderful characters and layered, interesting, complex, funny characters that made it feel real, yet fantastical at the same time. I was afraid what would happen to them if the reaction didn't go well. So the fact you got us to care about everyone, including the judge, I don't know if I've ever cared about a judge. The way, by the end, I thought that was a really fascinating job by the writers and the producers such as yourself, and creating all of this, and the actors, of course, in their performances.
Yeah, again, I think you've summed that up really well, because personally, I felt there was a real weight to deliver the show that we had promised, because the folks who signed up for this, from our cast through to our incredible crew, through to even, you know, FREEVEE as a network who'd bought this bloody thing. You know, we had promised everyone a hero's journey and an experience that everyone could feel good about when they walk away from it. And our cast especially, they are there every single day with Ronald, getting to know him. And yes, you know, they have these characters they play and they've built these fabulous and very rich and detailed backstories.
Yes.
But when they emotionally engage with Ronald, that comes from a very sincere place. That is them. And so the friendships that they built with him were completely sincere. And so it felt like there was a tremendous responsibility and onus on us to do the right thing with Ronald, not just for him, but for our cast as well, who'd given all of themselves to the experience. And like I said, for our viewers to come away feeling like this was okay. It was okay to enjoy this and to take something from this experience. And yeah, the fact that it all sort of went the way that we wanted to is a tremendous relief, because folks signed up without a lot of information. I was kind of paranoid, and there are a lot of NDAs, and no one was allowed to talk about anything. It was very clandestine and probably a little bit silly on my part, but I just really wanted to make sure it was completely watertight and that we didn't give the game away. So people signed up without most of our actors signed up with very little information, and they turn up for rehearsals at this dilapidated courthouse in Huntington Park. I'm like, what the hell are we doing here? So the fact that the show has been able to have the success it has, and that they quite rightly have been recognized for their incredible work, from all of our ensemble to James to Susie casting him in the first place, it's really satisfying, and it feels like a great reward for all of their faith.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, 4 Primetime Emmy nominations, Outstanding Comedy Series. You're going toe-to-toe with Ted Lasso and Elementary, which is insane. James Marsden getting nominated for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series. Susie Ferris getting nominated for her casting in this series. And Outstanding writing for one of the actors who's in the show, his episode, Mekhi Leeper there getting nominated as well. So what an interesting turn of events to have it end up in Emmy consideration. Amazon FREEVEE, man. I mean, it's kind of shocking, and it should speak to the power of your show that it has gotten this kind of reaction from the voting and awards memberships and organizations.
Right, I think we started dubbing it the little show that could, and
that's fair. Yeah.
And it just keeps on going, and I think it's exactly what you say, which is it shows if you can execute a good idea and leave people with a certain feeling after they watch a show, then that can go a very long way. And in this day and age, when there is so much content out there and it's so hard to keep a track of what even your friends are watching, and we talk about pop cultural moments and zeitgeist and stuff like that, and you know, we don't maybe have those as much these days because there is so much stuff to watch, and we're all watching it our own schedules and our own time. This is one of those things where it was a moment in time, and there did feel like this word of mouth sensation, and it reaffirms my belief that if you make something good and you do it in the right way, then there's a chance that people will find it. And and also luck. I mean, listen, luck is a tremendous part of all of this and how it all came together. But no, it really is an honor to be in the same category as these unbelievable, brilliant shows, wonderfully, meticulously crafted. And it feels like an honor that folks have recognized the craft that went into our show as well, and the difficulty in pulling it off, and the fact that we did a magic trick. And we did it well enough that people were able to just enjoy the experience for what it was, and go along with the ride.
Yeah, for me personally, there are 2 connections. I've known Trisha LaFaccia for a long time as an actress out here in Los Angeles. So when she popped up in this, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And then I've known Robin Adams for some time now.
Amazing.
I was like so impressed that like there are people that I know that are involved. So it made me cheer for it even more. And the fact that it came out as well as it did was fantastic. But we got to talk about James Marsden. How did you line up James Marsden? Because you had to find somebody who was well known enough for people to know him, but also have a loss of ego and not have any fear of like it affecting his brand. So this must have been such an interesting thing to find James. How early in the process was he involved? And at any point, did you consider anybody else?
So the idea of a celebrity as being one of the jurors was really baked into the idea from the outset, because it was an opportunity to have a lot of fun. It's something that in LA you can get away with because even famous people get called for jury duty in LA. So it's something that was real. And also, quite frankly, to your point, you know, it's a show on a little known network at the time. And when you're selling a show like that, it helps when you have a famous movie star like James Marsden attached. There's a very practical element to it as well. So we always knew there was going to be a celebrity component. When it came to James specifically, he was very good friends with David Bernard, one of our other producers. They'd worked together previously. And I think it was over dinner that Dave had the conversation because Dave suspected that he might be great at this. And he knew this to be true, which is that James loves pushing himself and taking risks and going against type. And, you know, he's not one of these improvised guys. He didn't have formal improvised training. He didn't come from that world. Right. So for him, he knew he wanted to play around in this space. And what an insane way to do it when there are no takes, when there are no breaks, when if you make a single mistake, you can tear down the Jenga tower. I can't imagine the show with anyone other than James because he brings together he's so freaking funny. Yes. His timing and his improvisation was so clever and so perfect. He cared a great deal about Ronald, which was really, really important in the making of thing. It kind of kept us on track and knowing that we were comfortable in what we were doing. And he was just fearless and he had no ego about the whole thing. Like, I will say this, for all of our cast, we did not have fancy trailers and masseurs and lots of delicious bespoke meals. They were all stuck in a bloody deliberation room every single day without windows, shoveling food in their mouths whenever they could. This was not a glamorous experience for anyone making it. So again, there are no Hollywood trappings to the guy. He's just an unbelievably talented, committed, funny dude. He's also the best looking human I've ever seen in my entire life. Good God. Just astonishing. And yeah, we were so, I can't imagine the show without him. And I truly hope that they already have to a degree, obviously, with the nomination, but to recognize the artistry that he possesses, what he executed on the show, along with the rest of our cast, and how different an environment it was to everyone else that he's in contention with. I hope people can see that because it really is singular, I think, what he did on the show.
Yeah, well, it doesn't work without all these other fantastic actors, right? You find people like I just want to point out some of my standouts. Edie Monica's Jeannie was my favorite. I mean, talk about unwilling to go wherever it was going to go. It was incredible. David Brown as Todd was great with those chair pants. Are you kidding me? Mickey Leeper as Noah was fantastic as well. And then Rashida Oliawola. I mean, that's the bailiff everybody wants, isn't it? So to me, I was rolling along with this. And then you had Kirk Fox, who's a veteran funny character actor to kind of balance things out a little bit and maybe add a little more of that extra nuance in the interactions, which I thought was genius.
It was, I mean, again, testament to Susie Farris, our casting director, who is such a deserved nomination. She did unbelievable work. We were not a massive budget show. You compare the budget of our show to any of the other outstanding comedies, and we are galaxies apart. So with limited resources, Susie, on limited information, had to find 17 series regulars who you could depend upon to execute this high wire act of a show, and knowing that if any of them muck up, we can't recast them. Yes. Because we're in the middle of a bloody trial. We can't just say, sorry guys, this isn't working, we need to make some moves behind the scenes. It is a submarine, the door has been locked, and we are now under the water. And we just got to go with what we go with. And so she did an unbelievable job of identifying these folks who ended up really caring very deeply about their work on the show and their relationship with Ronald. And they all brought something so spectacular to it. And everyone that you mentioned is a genius. The whole cast is really fantastic. Yeah. Truly. And I do wish there was an ensemble category for the Emmys. I know there is for the SAG Awards, and I hope when that comes that all our cast will be recognized for it, because truly it was a team effort. And obviously James is recognized by the nature of the awards, but he will be the first to admit that it was a comedy troupe. They had to believe in each other completely. They had to establish this rapport in no time whatsoever. And they carried the show on their backs. And I hope that each and every one of them gets the recognition they deserve and their moment in the sun for the work that they put on this show, because I love all of them intensely. I love the characters that they created, and it's so wonderful. It's an amazing thing to know. In LA, turns out there are lots of very talented folks who just haven't quite had their break yet. Who would have thought it?
Well, I do got to ask you that. Are there any of these, how can I say this, ideas? I don't want to say sketches, but ideas that you all didn't get a chance to implement because of logistics or timing or what have you? Was there, because I mean, you guys go out there with some of this stuff, but is there anything that you felt was so precious, but you had to lose at the last minute that you thought could have really locked it down?
It's funny, we did have we call them set pieces, so you're not far away in terms of sketches. We knew that in each episode we wanted to have what we would call a set piece, which is something that felt kind of big or outlandish, or something which would generate laughs or make an audience go, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. That was our intention. And you know what? For the most part, we did most of them. Most of the things you see were stuff that we planned and went for, and there weren't really any swings that we decided not to take. I'll give you one, which is actually in the very first episode. Okay. The story was meant to start with Ronald walking up to the courthouse through the parking lot,
right,
and a harried mother was getting out of her car and trying to get a stroller out of her car. And in the process of getting the stroller out of her car, why she's there, why she has a stroller, where are her children, unknown. But she's in this struggle, and she pulls the stroller out, and in the process of doing so, she smashes the window of this car next to her. Just so, and the timing happens to be just as when Ronald is going by. And the idea being that this is his first sort of test, right? What do you do if this woman, and you immediately feel sympathy for her, what would you do in that situation? And she says, I'll leave a note. I promise I'll deal with it. Don't worry. You keep going into the courthouse. It'll be fine. I'll leave a note. We didn't end up doing it, right? Because the stress that he would then feel as he's in the courtroom. And remember, you see remnants of it in the first episode where Judge Allen says about someone broke into my car. They took an iPod and my hand's bleeding about. We didn't do it because we didn't want Ronald to actually connect the dots and to him go like, I know who broke the judge's car. I now have this information. Am I in contempt of court by not declaring it? Right. Then suddenly you have this massive weight on the guy, and we're in our first like 2 hours. So we decided to not do it in the end of the day. I think it was a good call. But that was one of those ones that we ended up not doing. But for the most part, James taking a poop, the auditions, the arm wrestling, the stuff that happens at the factory, chair pants, racism, the Timcident when he falls off the cabinet and gets injured. That was exactly, we planned all of those things, and we were able to to stick them. Is there a second season in the works? Are there things you're kicking around now that you've become a kind of a jewel in the crown of Amazon FREEVEE, right next to Bosch? You tell me, which I love as a show. But like, are there Judy Justice? Let's give the Queen her rightful place, which is Judy Justice, and then it's us and Bosch, and then above us is Judy Justice. I'll say, obviously we're in the middle of a historic labor action right now between our writers and our actors striking, and we are obviously in complete solidarity with them. And things need to change. So out of respect for that, it's pens down for everyone. So there haven't been any further conversations, and it's just kind of allowed us, truthfully, to just keep enjoying this silly ride that we're on, and to keep relishing in the fact that people keep enjoying this show that we made. And as for the future, who knows? I do think anything is possible. Right. If you put your mind to it, and if you have the right people and people who really buy into it and want to do it in the right way, I think, truth, even for me, having done some pretty crazy stuff before, Jury Duty really did confirm in my mind that, with the right time, the right resources, and the right people, you can do some really astonishing things which didn't seem conceivable before. So but who knows what will come up. But Nicholas, why do you want to put yourself through this? Like, I don't understand. I mean, the amount. I'm surprised you're not bald and like just totally gray hair prematurely. Like therapy and meditation and prescription medication. Or honestly, John, that is personally in my work, my career, what I do. That is the balance. It's really, really hard doing this stuff because the number of ways it can go wrong, and more importantly, the ethical considerations that, we really, really set out to make sure that this guy had a good time. But if we misconsidered something, or forgotten one particular element or had been careless in a certain way, we could have really hurt this guy.
Yes.
And if you don't if you don't give all of yourself to the experience, then you have to remember that you have a duty of care towards them. Right. And we focused so intensely on that for a year and a half before we even started shooting. And so there is a certain weight that comes with it, and frankly it's not a weight that you sit with if you're doing scripted shows, and the worst you have to deal with is like if some actor gets kind of annoyed, or if there's some scheduling issue. But the satisfaction of when you can pull it off, and the joy I feel when I see Ronald Gladden in some freaking commercial with Ryan Reynolds, or he's at the ESPYs, or he's hanging out at the Barbie premiere and just having a whale of a time. It's such a relief. It feels truly incredible, and that's why I keep coming back to it, I think, is to know that you can, in theory, achieve these really singular moments, and it's wonderfully rewarding.
I've been getting into free climbing documentaries, and I feel like you guys like free climbing people do this in an entertainment way. That's what it feels like to me.
I've always felt that Alex Honnold is slightly broken in a way, so I'm hoping that doesn't quite apply to me. But yeah, no, I think there is something to be said for the lows are very. I remember saying this to Cody Heller, who is our fantastic showrunner, she had never done this kind of stuff before, but is an incredible comedy writer. And when we had our first conversation, and I was sort of talking her through the ropes of this thing, essentially, and I said to her, I just need to tell you up front, you'll never feel as bad as you felt like when it goes wrong. The lows are so low doing this stuff, but the highs are completely the highest you can imagine. And I remember we were about 2 days in, and I think Ronald had willingly given over his phone during the sequestration, which was a very scary moment. And then you had James pissing off Officer Nicky, which was a great little moment. You had all this stuff kind of going on in this one scene, and David Brown trying to deal with his fake ear. And Cody turns to me and she's like, "This is the most amazing thing I've ever felt. It's actually working." I'm like, "Yeah, this is, when it works, it's unlike anything else." Yeah,
free climbing. I'm just saying. I know I got to go. So one last question I got to ask you this: we broke on the Hot Mic, which is the show I host with Jeff Snyder here on my channel, that Sacha Baron Cohen is possibly coming back to do Ali G. You've been involved with him, but not with the Ali G character. Is this something that you can maybe confirm, tease, deny?
I couldn't possibly speak to any of that. And obviously Sacha has he has an incredible repertoire of amazing characters, and he works in his own time and does things in his own way, and his work is all the better for it. And whatever his next thing ends up being, I'm sure it will be some of the funniest, most insane and shocking stuff you've ever seen, and he manages to do it every single time. And I look forward to watching it along with everyone else whenever it is his next thing comes.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to see if maybe you were involved in somehow. You could break something here on the channel, but not at this point. But hey, we're looking forward to it. But guys, this is The Focus, Jury Duty. That's what it is. If you guys haven't watched it, I don't think we've ruined it in any way, shape, or form. You're still going to enjoy it. And Nicholas Hatton, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us here in the Outlaw Nation. You've created you and the rest of the producers and the creators have created a wonderful show that all of us have really enjoyed. And thank you for doing it. And you deserve all the love and award recognition you're getting right now, for sure.
John, thank you for watching the show, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.